Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. I'm Wayne Kramer, the president of the board of directors at the LBJ Museum, and I would like to welcome you to this, our LBJ Museum of San Marcos Benefit Gala. Emphasis on the benefit gala. No, just kidding. Our museum highlights the college years that LBJ spent here at Texas State. And I think how that experience shaped his politics and shaped his programs and the programs that he had with the Great Society. We have a wonderful program for you tonight. Hopefully you've had a chance to look over our silent auction items and you have 1, 2, 3 or more items on your wish list. You can make that wish come true by bidding high and bidding often and watch what other people do as well. Also, you can try your luck on our dining wheel, the Dining Adventure Wheel. I think there's some great restaurant gift cards there available for you. I'd like to take a moment to recognize some of our elected officials with us here tonight. Mayor Jane Houston is here. Jane. Alyssa Garza, council member, place 3. Alyssa. David Peterson, our Hays County Constable for Precinct 1. Where's David? Alfredo Munoz, Caldwell County Democratic Chair. Michelle Cohen, Hays County Commissioner, Precinct 2. And Daphne Tenorio, the County Treasurer for Hays County. Also, I'd like to recognize our board members that are here tonight. Judge Linda Rodriguez, who's our Vice President. Where's Linda? Dr. Ann Burnett is our Secretary. Brian Ray, a new board member and also our new Treasurer. And then other board members, Melissa Millicam, Ellie Dietz, and 2 other new board members, Mark Rocky Moore. Where's Mark? And Kate Clayton. I'd also like to please allow me to recognize Terry Kasparis. He's the chair of the Friends of the Lyndon B. Johnson National Historic Park. So thank you for attending, Terry. And one last thank you. Debbie Butler and Anissa Adams, our museum manager and assistant manager, they really put this all together. So let's give them a nice round of applause. For me, my association with the museum was a pretty good fit. I'm also the director of the LBJ Debate Society here at Texas State. And as you know, LBJ was a member of the team when he was here in the late 20s. He was a member of the Harris Blairs, which when the original organization, the Chautauqua Literary Society, split up, he became a member of the Harris Blair Society. LBJ often spoke of Professor H.M. Green, Prof. Green as he was known. He was his debate coach, and he reflected often on the persuasive skills that Prof. Green instilled in him. Public advocacy, critical thinking, critical speaking are vitally important in maneuvering through this interesting political climate. And I like to think that our debaters are positioning themselves to be effective advocates for change and social justice. This benefit is also co-sponsored by the LBJ Debate Society. And I have some of my team members here and some of my assistant coaches here tonight as well. So let's give them a round of applause. But enough from me. Let's hear from those who are far more eloquent. Lucy Johnson, President Johnson's daughter, could not be here tonight, but please enjoy this video message that she prepared for you.
This is Lucy Baines Johnson on behalf of generations of Johnsons, coming tonight to thank the wonderful supporters of the Lyndon Baines Johnson Museum in San Marcos, Texas. San Marcos held a very special place in Lyndon Johnson's life. It gave him the education he needed and the supporters he treasured in order to fulfill his dreams to serve the public good. There's a song from South Pacific that goes something like this. You got to have a dream. Because if you don't have a dream, how you going to make a dream come true? Well, Lyndon Johnson had many dreams when he came to San Marcos and to what is now known as Texas Strait. His desire was to be a public servant and to make a difference for all of us, but especially for those of us who have the least and need the most. His dreams for elementary and higher education, his dreams for health care and Medicare and Medicaid, his dreams for arts and the humanities, his dreams for the environment, his dreams for space. His dream list was long and worthy. And because of the education you provided him and the friendships you consistently gave to him, he was able to make many of those dreams come true, especially in the area of civil rights, the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the 1965 Voting Rights Act, the 1968 Fair Housing Act. None of those would have been reality without people like Julian Castro's family, who has generations that have supported not only the civil rights issues, especially in San Antonio and the nearby environments, but really across this country, to be possible for all of our citizens, regardless of our ethnicities or the colors of our skins. And so I praise you all for having the good judgment once more to be there for a marvelously promising young public servant in Julian Castro. I would give all that I could to be there this evening myself, but Lyndon Johnson has sent his best in Julian. I know you will delight in his address this evening as I have delighted in his service to our country. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting the Lyndon Baines Johnson Museum here in San Marcos, the place where Lyndon Johnson knew that his neighbors would know when he was sick and care when he died. His last job in life was coming back to San Marcos, where he started off, teaching at Texas State, because he felt that you were the best and you never forgot him. He would never want any of his family to forget you, and he would be forever thankful for your continued support in telling the story of the dreams of a young, poor college student here in San Marcos could come true to serve the public good in ways that have made impactful and irreversible changes for the good in this country on the celebration of the 50th anniversary of his death. So thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart, from my family to your families. Good luck. I hope tonight is a rounding success. I'm glad to have been able to contribute to it. I wished I could be with you, but you've got the best that we can have in Julian.
We thank her for that message. And as she alluded to, our guest speaker tonight is Julian Castro. Julian Castro served as U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development under President Barack Obama from 2014 to 2017. Previously, he was mayor of his native San Antonio, Texas, the youngest mayor of a top 50 American city at the time. In 2012, he gave a rousing keynote speech at the Democratic National Convention, during which he described the American dream as a relay to be passed from generation to generation. In 2020, Secretary Castro ran for the Democratic nomination for president. Today, he serves as MSNBC, NBC News political analyst and also guest anchor. He currently also serves as the Klingsky Visiting Professor from Practice at Harvard Law School and is a senior research fellow at the NAACP Legal Defense Fund's Thurgood Marshall Institute. Secretary Castro serves on the board of directors of the LBJ Foundation, the Center for American Progress, Marguerite Casey Foundation, the Bipartisan Policy Center, and Common Sense Media. Secretary Castro earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from Stanford University and a law degree from Harvard Law School. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored and privileged to have Secretary Julian Castro as our guest speaker this evening.
Good evening. Well, Wayne, let me say a huge thank you, gracias, to you for that introduction and for the invitation to be here with you this evening, and especially for all the work that you do here to help shape so many young minds and to help ensure that they're able to reach their dreams in keeping with Lucy Johnson's remarks about her father. I also, of course, want to thank her and her family for everything that they have done over the years in our state and continue to do. It's a pleasure to serve with Lucy and with her sister Linda and with Chairman Larry Temple and others on the LBJ Foundation board, which I know many folks here are very familiar with as well. I also want to thank each and every one of the folks who have supported the LBJ Museum here. And thank the students who are here with us. Let's give them a round of applause. I know that the debate team is co-sponsoring tonight's event. Hello, y'all. Wayne, I also want to thank you for getting the introduction right. Some of y'all may know that I have a twin brother, Joaquin, and Joaquin likes to routinely go around telling people that the way to tell us apart is that I'm 1 minute uglier than he is. Which I still contend after 48 years is not true. But I can't tell you how many times people have gotten to the end of the introduction and then they introduce me as Congressman Julian Castro. So thank you for getting it right. I want to give a shout out as well to Mayor Hewson and to all of our elected officials who are here this evening. It's special to be here tonight for a couple of different reasons. First, because I serve on the LBJ Foundation board, and when Wayne called, was very ready, willing, and able to come out here and support this effort, which commemorates LBJ's time at Texas State and his legacy, of which San Marcos and this university, which of course at the time I think was Southwest Texas State Teachers College, was part of. And also because it's always wonderful to be here in San Marcos at Texas State. Y'all have a beautiful community here, one that is growing, one that is making a bigger and bigger impact on the area and the region, one that in many ways strikes me as the future of our state, a place that is young, a place that is diverse, a place that is diversifying in its economy, and based in the knowledge economy here with the university, and a place that was so instrumental to the work and the promise of President Lyndon Baines Johnson, a place where his passion for serving others emanated from. As many of you know, he spoke to the impact that Texas State made in his life when he visited his alma mater on November 8th, 1965. I think he visited the old gymnasium here to sign the Higher Education Act. And coming back and seeing familiar faces and reflecting on his own education here and then his experience afterward actually teaching, LBJ said that here, the seeds were planted from which grew my firm conviction that for the individual, education is a path to achievement and fulfillment. And for the nation, it is a path to a society that is not only free, but civilized. And for the world, it is a path to peace. Like so many of you, and like President Johnson, my own family story reflects that power of education, that when we celebrate LBJ, we also celebrate. I know the promise that it holds. I grew up with a grandmother who had come from Mexico when she was 7 years old as an orphan because her parents had passed away, and San Antonio was where her nearest relatives lived. She came here and never made it past the 3rd grade, but raised my mom as a single parent. My mother was able to graduate from high school and eventually go on to college. My mother raised my brother Joaquin and me as a single parent, and we went to the public schools of San Antonio and the SAISD and Edgewood Independent School Districts, and were able to go on to college and go to law school. I remember Friday, April 3rd, 1992, Joaquin and I running out to our mailbox because we had been waiting during those weeks to get back our acceptance or rejection letters from colleges and universities that we had applied to. This was in the old snail mail days, before they would tell you by email or social media, or however people find out today. I remember us getting to the mailbox, and in the mailbox we found these 2 packets. And you might recall that when you were applying to colleges, you wanted it to be a packet and not a letter, because if it was a letter, it was like 1 page that said, thanks but no thanks. And I still remember these packets because they weren't those usual manila envelopes with that ugly, brownish color. They were those white ones with the green triangle borders. You know the one that I'm talking about? You really don't see them that often, but both of them were like that. And Joaquin and I, in the months before that, had applied for fee waivers, gotten them from our counselor to apply to different schools, and we just looked at the U.S. News and World Report, top 10 ones, and applied and got into some and didn't get into others. But that day, we got these packets and we ran back into the house and, of course, ripped them open like any good 17-year-old would do. And the first line in the letter said, "Congratulations and welcome to the Stanford class of 1996. And I wish that I had had a cell phone like we do today that are so ubiquitous with a camera in it, so that I could have recorded my grandmother's face. Because I bet a lot of your parents, grandparents, never could have imagined that that kind of opportunity would exist for somebody in her family and that she would get to see that. And in my own life, it was one of those moments where you feel like everything is going right and you can see the horizon in front of you and only good things ahead. I can imagine that many of you at different points in life have had those moments. And it's amazing to me to think that because of the power of education that President Johnson spoke about here at Texas State, and more importantly, that he worked on through his Higher Education Act and also Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and in so many other ways, just 2 generations after my grandmother got here with almost nothing as a 7-year-old orphan, one of her grandsons was serving in the United States Congress, and the other one was serving the President of the United States in his cabinet and would eventually get to run for president himself. That is the possibility of our country. But it's not something that happened by accident. It's something that happened, of course, because I worked hard and my family worked hard, but because so many others also worked hard to create a nation where hard work can meet opportunity and reward it. And LBJ certainly had a big role to play in doing that in my own life. I consider myself a living testament to the impact that he had on so many Americans. In fact, so many of the possibilities that opened up for me and for my family, and I bet as well for you and yours, can be traced back to the work that he did, the work of the Civil Rights Act, to make sure that when policy was made, along with the Voting Rights Act, that it took into account the needs of all communities, Black, brown, white, Asian American, Native American, and people from different backgrounds in neighborhoods all throughout our country. The Fair Housing Act, so that people, no matter their background, could go out there and rent or buy or get financing to get a home without discrimination. The work that he did to create better schools, the work that he did to protect our environment and also to protect consumers in our country. And I know that if we did go around the room, that each and every one of you would probably have a similar story. And so it is an honor to join you tonight to commemorate the legacy of President Lyndon Baines Johnson, to support the preservation and the telling of that legacy through the work of the LBJ Museum, to say thank you for all that y'all do to preserve that legacy day in and day out. And also, if I may, to offer a few words of reflection, especially for the students who are here with us tonight, on what I hope we can carry forward from the life and the legacy of President Johnson and the example that he set. The first of those is that no matter what life brings you in the years to come, keep believing in yourself. Be tenacious. As Lucy alluded to, President Johnson came from a family of modest means, a family that at different points in his life was struggling, one where success was not at all assured. And yet, whether it was being able to get through Texas State Teachers College and on to a profession, or making it through lean years after that, LBJ believed in himself. He had the self-confidence and the drive and the determination and the dream, as she said, to keep going. All of us know, and the longer we live, the better we know, that life will always throw you obstacles. But there is a reason, and I say this to the young people, that you are where you are already. Some of you may be first-generation students, the first in your family to go to college. Some of you may come from backgrounds that are similarly modest or low income. You may have faced other obstacles in life already. Be tenacious. Let the success that you've already had propel you, assure you that no matter what life throws at you, that you can prevail. It's a lesson that LBJ seemed to know well when he faced obstacles, both personal and political. And ultimately, his legacy is a testament to his self-determination and self-belief in the dream that Lucy spoke of. Secondly, be opportunistic in life. You have a vision and you have a dream, but also don't forget to listen and to learn from others and to see what is in front of you and think about other possibilities and to seize opportunity that comes your way. LBJ did this in some of the most impressive ways, some of the most impactful ways in his political life. I'm thinking, of course, of the speech he gave to a joint session of Congress on March 15th, 1965, just 8 days after John Lewis and a group of activists had marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday and been turned back, beaten, pulverized. LBJ saw an opportunity to do right, to fundamentally transform our country into a country that was more just, that addressed the scourge of racism toward Black Americans and people of color. And so when he addressed Congress on March 15th of 65, he urged Congress to pass the Voting Rights Act. And the Voting Rights Act was signed by President Johnson just a few months later in that year. just a few days after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., the President addressed the nation and Congress and urged the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, better known as the Fair Housing Act of 1968, reviving it where it had been languishing in a congressional committee, not likely to get passed. But LBJ saw an opportunity to do right and to do good and to seize the moment. Those moments come in our personal life, in our professional life, and in our public life. Understand them. Take advantage of them in a positive and in the right way, as a chance to do good. I also hope that you will take LBJ's example and build coalitions. We're living in a time that is one of the most polarized times that we've seen, at least in a couple of generations, since the time of President Johnson in the late 60s. A time when it can often feel like a burden just to open up to folks who think differently from you, sometimes even dangerous. But it's also clear, and as he set an example, that we will only move forward in our country if we make the effort to try and understand folks that think differently, that look differently, that live differently. If we try and build bridges and build those coalitions to get things done in our own communities, in our office spaces, and most importantly, in the halls where public policy is made, in city halls, in state capitals, and in Washington, D.C. I hope that for those students, you will always bring that sense of possibility as you forge new relationships in new places throughout your life. I also hope that in all that life will bring you in the years to come, as you graduate from Texas State, get into graduate school and/or the working world, start families of your own, that you'll always save a place on your calendar and in your heart to make a positive difference in the life of others. This is one of the most memorable and impactful legacies of LBJ. Someone who had enormous talent, drive, ambition, but who was focused on making a difference for other people. Now, I think it's fair to say that not many of us will actually get to do that as President of the United States. Believe me, I know that. But you don't have to be the president to make a profound difference in the life of others. There are folks in this room that do that each and every day. In your work as teachers, professors, in your work in the business community, in your work in nonprofits, through your churches, through volunteerism, through organizations that do good in the community and otherwise. You're talented and you're able, and I also hope that you will maintain a passion and a compassion to use that intelligence, that talent, that ability, not only to improve your lot in life, but as LBJ did, to help the most vulnerable, to ensure that those, as Lucy said, who are the neediest, get a leg up, and that other folks are blessed with the same kind of opportunity that you have right now in front of you, of a university education, of everything that comes with that. My favorite remarks of President Johnson's came in his "We Shall Overcome" speech from March 15th, 1965. I'm sure that many folks here have seen, some folks may have seen it when it aired, but if not, you may have seen it on YouTube or here at the museum. His "We Shall Overcome" speech is perhaps his most famous speech. because of the time that it was given, because of the consequence of it, of helping to spark success for the Voting Rights Act. And my favorite passage there was a passage that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. LBJ spoke about his time as a school teacher in the small Texas town of Cotulla. He said that he taught at a Mexican-American school there. He taught at the old Wellhausen School, 5th, 6th, and 7th graders. In his speech, he mentioned the look on their faces, knowing that they faced discrimination and wondering why that was and trying to go on. He talked about their poverty. And then he spoke about the responsibility that he felt to do something for them and for their families. I never thought then, in 1928, he said, that I would be standing here in 1965. It never occurred to me in my fondest dreams that I might have the chance to help the sons and daughters of those students and to help people like them all over this country. But now I do have that chance. And then he said, in only the way that he could, and I'll let you in on a secret, I mean to use it. We're here tonight because President Lyndon Baines Johnson did use that opportunity. In so many ways he used it effectively to better the lives of people who were among the country's most vulnerable, to ensure that their sons and daughters and their grandsons and granddaughters and generations beyond that could reach for their dreams in unprecedented ways and succeed. Today we live in an America that LBJ's determination to use that opportunity forged. My greatest hope for you, the young people of Texas State, is that you too will use that opportunity. That you'll use your talent, use your intelligence, use your ambition, use your integrity, use your voice to make the difference that you can in this world. And the truth today is that we need you more than ever before. The times that we're living in many ways, are unprecedented. These last 3 years have brought us a pandemic unlike anything that any of us have lived through or read about, that has cost more than 1 million lives in the United States of America and many more around the world, a recession that brought with it. The polarization that I mentioned earlier, a renewed push for racial justice after the murder of George Floyd, and sadly, more after the murder of Tyree Nichols more recently. We need all of the talent and the ability that you bring in your own way, in the public sector, in the private sector, in the nonprofit sector, to use that talent to ensure that our world becomes more fair and more just and more gentle, more compassionate. And if you do that, I'm confident that in the years to come, because of that, your legacy as well will be that this community, this state, our country, and our world will be a better place. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian, for those wonderful remarks. We're honored to have you here tonight, and we're privileged to hear your perspective on things, and I really appreciate that. You don't know how much. Ladies and gentlemen, we still have time for dessert. They are still silent auction items. I know there are empty spaces for people to bid. So please feel free to do that. Debbie, what time does silent auction end? 9:15. So you got 15 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Grab a drink, bid, have a good time. Thank you all very much for coming. We appreciate your support for the museum. I want to recognize our sponsors, HEB, the presidential sponsor, Lucy Johnson, of course, came in at the senatorial sponsor, and Texas State University is the congressional sponsor, and also the LBJ Debate Society is a co-host of the evening tonight. Thank you all also very, very much. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and hope we see you next year.